My next guest on High and Low, Peter Leiss. You've been on before, and I think one of the times I've had you on my radio programs a number of times because basically, along with my dear friend Robert Whittaker, Bob Whittaker as he's known to his friend, who photographed the Beatles, I reckon you photographed probably the second most famous person in popular culture, and that'd have to be. And we'll pause for a second. Everybody goes, oh, shit, who did he photograph? Second most popular person in popular culture. Maybe some people will even put him ahead of the Beatles, I don't know. He could paint better than any of the Beatles, that's for sure. Andy Warhol we're talking about. Yeah. You also photographed... it was a struggle to get that word out, wasn't it? You also photographed Russell Crowe.
I did the stills for Romper Stomper. I produced a series of 23 images exhibited around town.
Sold recently. Which auction house was it in America?
Christie's, New York.
Christie's, New York. Got the catalogue page here. Estimated between 4 and 6 for these 23 images, were there?
23.
23 images, estimated between 4 and 6 US, of course, we're talking. You got 3 US, which I guess you'd be happy with. That's
well,
6.
Yeah, it was after the auction. Apparently, hardly anyone was at the auction.
This was just after...
Well, it was in October, but, you know, it was still pretty tense, and no one was coming into town. And from what I heard from Laura, she was saying that there was just, you know, hardly anyone in there. No, but I'm happy that they got sold. Sort of move into the international market a little bit. And a little bit of cash, it always helps.
It's exactly what I'm saying, because on the same page as you in the exhibition catalogue, of course, one of America's premier, photographers in terms of the contemporary, Nan Goldin, there as well. So you're obviously in...
Yeah. It's a nice company, yeah, sure.
The Romper Stompers still sell, though. You've set up an exhibition in Melbourne here at Fad Gallery, which opened last Friday night, and basically... the show's all about when you were really depressed in 1994, I think, and you went out, you're in Hollywood or you're in LA, and you went out and photographed the Hollywood sign from various angles.
Well, I moved from New York to LA to work with an Australian producer. I won't mention names, but...
No, you can. I think he was one of the producers for Romper Stomper, wasn't he?
He was, yes,
yeah.
That's right.
So we know who we're talking. And he made a fantastic film. Forget the name of the film now, but it was set up in the mountain, like set up in...
Plains of Heaven.
That's the one. But now we know who we're talking about, don't we? All you film buffs out there.
Well, I'm going to spend 10 months. We were working on some development of...
With Ian Pringle, yes.
Ian Pringle. That's right. An insane 10 months, there's no doubt about it.
This was in LA?
In LA, yeah. So I eventually moved out along with other people, and it was just... the stories are just endless. I could go on for hours about... you could write a movie script about it quite easily.
Well, have you got one you can tell us, that's not too...
I don't know.
You don't know? Go on, just do it.
We got involved with the sleaze of LA, there's no doubt about it. But the projects fell through because in the end there was no structural organization, and it was just a rampage into trying to get these things developed.
So these projects you're talking about were sort of...
they were feature films primarily to be developed. He stated that there was plenty of money, we could keep going for a couple of years even if we didn't produce anything, and there were some great opportunities, but the wrong decisions were made, and that was primarily the downfall of it, but a lot of other elements as well. So
your way of getting over it was to actually go out and photograph the Hollywood sign?
Well, I moved out. Fantastic old house, and I had this little room there, and so I needed about 6 months to recuperate from all this, get my head in a perspective. It was a beautiful old house, though. It was beautiful. Anyway, the Hollywood sign was just, a couple of minutes drive up the hill, and photograph it. People were giving me old cameras to play around with. I took these old cameras up there, and I did the multi-exposure images, so there's like triple exposures, quadruple exposures. I was playing with different things, black and white images, and then I would take them to little gift shops and things like that, and they liked them. So yeah, we'll put a few up, and they kept selling and selling. But it wasn't everyone's cup of tea, because they are very sort of dark and brooding, and the glamour has been stripped right out of these images. They're, dirt tracks leading up to the sign and things like that.
At least all the letters are there. I've seen the Hollywood sign, in real decay where the W is missing, all of that, but at least you've got all the letters,
I like some of the even darker ones with, they sort of blur out of focus, and some people found them a little bit disconcerting because it's sort of a reminder of the vulnerability of Los Angeles, the earthquake and things like that. People either like them or hate them.
I love them. I reckon they look fantastic. I guess, as you said, there is the darker side to them, because we always consider Hollywood's bright lights and all that sort of thing, and I guess these are black and white photographs, very black and white, and basically just about the Hollywood sign. And the Hollywood sign's actually in a pretty ugly location, though, isn't it?
Well,
If you isolate its location, it's...
Yeah, I guess so. Well, it's just hill land, and it's brush, and it's been walked through a lot, so it's just scrub land and stuff like that.
And it reminds me of Seinfeld, I suppose. I can't, you know...
I know the one you mean.
Yeah, where Kramer, goes to Hollywood and the mass murderer. Yeah, but
yeah, that was a bit like 10 months with Ian Pringle. Could have quite easily got into trouble like that too.
So do you get those feelings now? Do you get the feelings back? That, you know, like what you were trying to exercise? Do they come back when you look at these shots?
Actually, they did. It was quite a personal exhibition. I was quite surprised when I was putting together all these prints that I'd printed back then, and getting frames. And the whole thing is kind of a recycled thing. I've used a lot of frames and redone them. I've even gone to the extent of using different coloured papers and things like that, which I don't normally usually do. You know, it's generally your white card and so forth. But it was a good therapeutic exercise doing those images. Very good.
Fantastic. Very good. I love it. Of course, there is another side to this exhibition as well. As with all good exhibitions, the proceeds do go to the person most responsible for the work, and that's you. But what you're actually doing with this show at Fad Gallery and Bar, and we better tell you where it is, it's 14 Cause Lane in Chinatown, a little laneway that runs between Lonsdale and Little Burke, between Exhibition and Russell, basically.
Correct,
yeah. If you can...
Yeah, there's a little car park on that corner lane, and it's virtually the only one. There's a Japanese restaurant at sort of the end of the lane.
One of the famous Japanese restaurants, probably the first Japanese restaurant in Melbourne.
I think it could be.
Yeah. Whatever its name is. I've been there many times. But the little lane, it's actually the best way to get there, I reckon, is off Lonsdale, because it's a tiny little laneway, isn't it, that suddenly expands out. It feels seedy within itself, so maybe to get the full experience, you go down the part that's off Lonsdale Street and have a look at the seedier side of Hollywood. You've got a new film company. I take it Ian Pringle's not involved with this one?
No, Ian Pringle's not involved in this.
Prometheus Films, and your first production. Of course, we had you on, I think, in March, talking about another piece you're working on called The Arsonist, which was to do with an Australian play.
Well, I went to New York in March, and I had two projects that I wanted to film. One was the Australian Arsonist in New York, following Philip Corbett's play that was being done in New York. And I did the other one, which was Cakewalking Babies from Home, about three artists, playwrights, who live in Greenwich Village, and follow them through their merry romp of nostalgia and what they're working on at the moment. And that was that nearly didn't happen, but we managed to reach an agreement. We shot this film, and I found that quite exciting, and I got some people interested to cut it in Port Melbourne, and I've got a wonderful editor who's working on it with me, and it's turning out to be quite an interesting film.
Well, I've seen the uncut director's cut. There's some pretty interesting footage in there, especially as you drive around various parts of the big New York. You get into Brooklyn and Queens, I think.
No, we go to New Jersey.
You go to New Jersey?
And we go through a lot of diners, because these two guys, Robert and John, are diner aficionados. They do tours. They bring out, Japanese tourists or European tourists, and they take busloads of them through a number of diners in New Jersey, amongst many other things. Robert's been involved with Andy Warhol, for instance. A couple of his plays have been done by Andy Warhol as film script, and there's some pretty interesting elements about how Robert's been involved with Andy Warhol and his influence on Andy Warhol's work, and I think that'll be quite refreshing and new.
Okay, so that's basically why you've put the show up. You're looking to raise funds to get Cakewalking Babies from Home to the finished product stage, so as we can see it on either ABC or SBS.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think it would be a good little number for them to put on.
Good luck with it, Peter. The Hill series, a series of photographs of the Hollywood sign taken in 1994 by Peter Leiss, on show at the moment at the Fad Gallery and Bar, 14 Cause Lane in Chinatown. That's open Tuesday to Friday, 12 p.m. till 12 a.m, and then Saturday 1 till 5, or by appointment. It's on till when?
Till the 4th of December.
Okay, so people have got a bit of time to see it, and I guess the feature of it as well, the two Romper Stomper images you've got in the show as well, and they just walked out. Fortunately, someone paid for them.
Someone bought two of the editions. Yeah, I'm doing a Pegasus edition, because there's only a free edition on silver bromide, because all the negatives were lost by the film company when they sent them to LA, and they never arrived. So all the colour fight scenes of Romper Stomper were lost, and all the black and white negatives. But luckily, before that, I managed to do a set of 3 silver bromide.
Peter Leiss, fantastic. Nice to talk to you. Taken some great photographs of very famous people, as I've said, including Andy Warhol with former Melbourne art dealer Tony Oliver, now of course working with the Aboriginal community in Turkey Creek, doing a great job up there. Andy Warhol, and Tony Oliver together, and of course Lawrence Olivier, I think you did him, and
Peter O'Toole.
Peter O'Toole, that's the one I'm thinking of, and of course reasonably recently Russell Crowe as the man in Romper Stomper. But Peter Leiss's photographs of the Hollywood sign, various incarnations of it, on show at FAD until December the 4th. That's about it for High and Low. We'll wrap it up too. Johnny Topper outside. Leave you with some Romper Stomper. See you next week.